Right, hello, ladies and gentlemen. So, in today's episode, I interview Summit Strength graduate Mark, who's recently come off a successful hike on the Bibbulmun Track in Australia. Now, if you haven't heard of this particular track before, it's a 1,000 kilometre through hike, one of the iconic through hikes of Australia. And inside this episode, Mark shares a little bit about his preparations and training towards this big long distance hiking adventure, as well as his experiences on the trail. A fantastic episode, an absolute must listen for anyone who's considering the Bibbulmun Track in their future or a long distance hike in any way, shape, or form. So, with that being said, let's get into it.
All right. Hello, Mark, and a big welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ro. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, super excited to have you on. I think you, as I was saying, literally before we came on, I think you got such an awesome trip you've just done and such an awesome story. Pumped to have you on because I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy this. So to kick things off, do you just want to give us a little bit of background about yourself? Just let us know who you are, where you're from, and what is your background in hiking?
Yeah, so Mark from Melbourne, Australia, 47 years old now. I work in finance technology, so I've got a pretty sort of, I'll say a office stay-at-home sort of job. In terms of my hiking background, I've been hiking for, say, over 40 years. Started off at Scouts. A lot of my mates did as well, but over the years, I've done various hiking, some highlights being Overland Track, some hiking over in Nepal, doing Annapurna Circuit, Everest Base Camp, Ubung Village in China, a little bit of the Lycian Way in Turkey, but more close to home, I try and get down to Wilson's Promontory whenever I can. So for quick overnight hike and things like that. But yeah, I'd like to do a lot more, but yeah, life gets in the way sometimes.
Yeah, always the way. But I know we have so many listeners down that part of the world, and Wilson's Prom's a pretty popular one. So I think you're in the same area as a lot of people on this podcast. So yeah, let us let's go before we even started training together and before the trip and everything like that. Before we started working together, what was your typical approach to preparing for these trips or training for these trips?
Yeah, training is probably the wrong word for me. I would say certainly I grew up playing a lot of tennis, so I had an okay base of fitness. But generally speaking, my sort of training before decent sized walks were a couple of extra sessions at the gym, which weren't really targeted to anything in particular for hiking. A little bit of legs, but just overall sort of gym sessions. And generally speaking, I'm a bit of a crammer with everything, to be honest, in life. I tend to, in the last sort of month before I was going, I'd try and do a couple of overnight hikes. Wilson's Prom was a very popular destination for me, but they were more probably focused on making sure my gear was okay as opposed to fitness. So I think you would probably class me a little bit in the winging it. In terms of starting off, when I've done hiking, I've always started off very slow when I start. So I'll probably, try and wing it a little bit. So not very good for certainly, which I'm sure we'll get into the Bibbulmun Track, which something I reached out to you about. So,
Yeah. Well, on that note, tell us about that. But what specifically, I know you just said it, but let's say it again. What was the big goal that you set for yourself, and what was the instigator for this particular goal?
Yeah, so like I've always read a lot about the American through hikes and the various Australian ones, and Bibbulmun, the Bibbulmun Track was sort of, I guess it's known as being, in a way, the easiest one in Australia because of the facilities are so good. So it's 1,000 k walk over in Western Australia, and it's something that I've been reading about and researching about for a couple of years, but with a young family, I knew it was something I'd have to plan a few years in advance to be able to get the time to do it. So yeah, that was the goal was to do a 1,000 k through hike, and I thought I'd select the Bibbulmun because of the facilities and really not being sure whether done many 20-day sort of walks, but not sure whether that sort of 7-8 week walk was for me. So yeah, that led me to to do some research on the training side of things because I knew that I couldn't necessarily wing it, if you like. So, which led me to reaching out to yourself.
Yeah, and on that front, when you were making that decision to reach out, was there any specific things you felt like you really needed help with to lead up to this trip?
Yeah, ideally, like I knew it wasn't going to be like a year training block or anything like that because realistically, that's kind of not really how I sort of work. But I know I needed to target things about, I'd never done that amount of distances continually over multiple days. So I was really interested in things like, if there's certain techniques around, how to walk more efficiently, if you like, which led me to a couple of videos that you had online that sort of got me watching that initially. The other thing was just I tend to work better if I've got a bit of a plan mapped out, and I'm not just sort of thinking it up on the fly because I could do things like exactly the same gym session for I don't know 20 weeks and probably stay at the same level. So I just needed I needed a bit of knowledge in that space because it was a little bit unknown for me. So, and I was probably looking for, on top of the fitness, things around gear and stuff as well, because also, I'm comfortable. I understand what to take hiking and that, but it's more the lightweight options and stuff. So I was sort of looking around. That was a little bit of a whole new world, and I didn't really want to go out and spend top dollar, if you like, but was happy to spend a little bit there. So yeah, it's good.
And then tell us a little bit about the training that you did through Summit Strength. Like, what did your program actually look like?
Yeah, so typical weekly program. This will test my memory, but a couple of strength sessions. And those strength sessions were probably not what I was used to from a strength session from the gym. Certainly tailored more around, I would say, people who don't have a lot of equipment at home, like myself. I don't have a home gym or anything like that. So using things like loaded packs and things like that. The other session that had weekly was a mobility recovery session, which I had very little knowledge in that space other than, I'll say, tennis specific stretches, which I'm not really hiking. There was also like a walking session, like tempo walking. It's all that nose breathing. It's definitely not something I was familiar with. And then there was a fortnightly dedicated hike, which is really good because, weekends typically for me are kids' sport and things like that. So it's good to have placeholders. But then there was certainly guidance around sort of how far I should go, how much I should carry, things like that, which it just made it very easy in that state. So that was a typical week for me.
And then as we went through the months, was there anything in there that was a bit different than what you'd done before or experienced before?
Yes, yeah, there certainly the number of stretches that were very different. Like I always remember the knee to wall stretch because it's just felt so. I remember doing the initial sort of guideline sort of fitness test to send to get the program sorted, and there was so many stretches in there in particular that were just completely foreign to me. The world's greatest stretch as well. That's there's probably a video or something like that so people understand what that is. I'm bad at describing it. The I'd never ever. It's so simple, but I've never thought to carry weighted backpacks around the streets, suburbs. So whilst it might look strange to some people, I'd cruise into a coffee shop, be my halfway point. So that was a little bit different, but it made absolute sense after doing it. And I did notice the gradual difference as it was getting heavier and heavier each week. They're probably the main things. There's certainly a lot of exercises I was familiar with from the gym and that, or using dumbbells and whatnot. But, it's probably more the actual stretching and targeted around I'll say the ankles and knees. The leg focus was really good for me because it was just not known. So yeah.
And then as you went through the preparation and the months there, were there any particular roadblocks or issues that kind of came up along the way? And if so, how did you go about overcoming them?
Yeah, so I think it was I can't remember if it was the second or third week, maybe. I managed to do a grade 1 calf strain at pickleball. So that was my old man tennis game, if you like, and I'd only recently started a competition in that space, so that was a real bummer. I was really worried about that. I was thinking I'd have to delay the walk because, admittedly it was 30 weeks before the walk started, but I ended up giving up the pickleball. But in terms of the program, like, between ourselves, we decided to delay it for a week, and then we tailored some of the exercises to cater for what my physio was saying. So that was really good. And then I could just sort of catch up over time. So I was lucky it was a grade 1, but yeah, it was a little bit of I've never done a calf muscle in my life, so it's just amusing that I got it to start. But probably another reminder why it was good to have a focused program rather than just winging it, so to speak, because I would have hated to have done the calf on the first day of the actual walk. But yeah, that was probably the main roadblock. And other than that, sometimes just had to bear in mind that things with the kids and that might come up, and that was pretty good overall. Yeah.
Yeah, pickleball of all things, the sport that's supposed to be the gentle one, but the amount of people who pick up niggles and aches and, and bits and pieces from it these days, it's so funny. So preparation's done, training's done, you put in the months, built yourself up, stepping out on the trail. Let's talk about that. Give me the whole rundown. How did it go? How did it run down? How did it play out? Yeah, talk me through it.
Yeah, I probably should have mentioned too in the preparation stuff. The other thing that I really got a lot of value out is the weekly videos to watch too, because things like I was learning, I was using hiking poles wrong all this time and things like that. That was very helpful. Certainly, getting on the trail though, like certainly the anticipation was definitely there. The weather was really good, which is good. It was, I think, for the Bibbulmun walk, because I was walking north, the coast down near Albany to Denmark is probably some of the prettiest section, but also some of the hardest with the sand dunes and whatnot. So I was very conscious to single hut, or the term that people do it thru-hike will understand, do that early on, except for, of course, I decided double hut in day 2 because I was, I don't know, adrenaline or whatever it was. But that was a good reminder to me that to slow down a bit, because I probably needed a couple of days to really slow down and recover from just doing a double hut the second day. But I was really stoked to be out on track. All my gear was good. My supply boxes were where they should be. I was feeling quite confident. But I knew that everyone has that different definition of when you get your track legs. Is it 10 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is? So I was really determined in that first 2 weeks to just look after everything, rubbing lotion on my legs every night, all this sort of stuff, making sure I had following the mobility recovery type things in camp and things like that. I was really quite dedicated for the first 2 weeks. And then it got a bit loose, to be honest, after that. I started feeling, I guess, part of that walker community. You start making friends along the way who are similar sort of speed, if you like. I was definitely taken aback by the various ages I was seeing on the track. Like, it ranged from a 10-year-old, pretty cool way to take semester off school, to the first person I met on the walk was a lovely 77-year-old lady doing, I think, a 4th time or something, and I was just flabbergasted because I was thinking I better do it before I'm too old, but I've got a few years to get to 77. So it was really, it had a really nice feel to the walk, the start. Certainly, I would say the first half of the Bibbulmun walk, I probably saw all the wow moments that I wanted to see, the big carry trees, the coast, and whatnot. So the second half became a lot more of a mental, um, maybe struggles too hard a word, but a lot of same scenery. So a lot of the people, they talk about the green tunnel effect because it's all very enclosed, a lot of it. So it became a bit more of a grind where yeah, some of the videos around mindset and that certainly helped in that space. But by and large, I'm okay by myself, amuse myself, and very badly practiced singing and things like that along the way. So yeah, I was certainly yeah, it's definitely a bit of a struggle the second half. What else? I was surprised by all the different animal encounters I had. I knew about the snakes. Everyone warned you about the snakes because of the emblem and whatnot. Saw plenty of the snakes, but they were all quite friendly and ran away or slid away. Plenty of emus, kangaroos, feral pigs, all sorts of different stuff. So we met some pig hunters out of Collie, which was they weren't as um, probably what the stereotypical pig hunter is. They were really nice young guys, actually, but yeah, I'm sure they're off the mischief. But anyway, that was all good. Um, I was really lucky. Probably the one campsite I was really looking forward to seeing is Lake Marrinup, and a big reason I chose to do the walk in autumn was because that area typically gets flooded out the other popular time, September, October. So I was stoked. I had a perfect weather there, got some amazing sunrise shots and things. So I was really happy there. Yeah, really friendly people in the track towns, really helpful. Managed to get massages whenever I needed, if that's services in town and things like that. So they're all very helpful with everything. And of course the famous canoe crossing on the Bibbulmun Track was amazing, but it was also part of um, I found the hardest day because of the sand dunes, and it was really bad weather that day and whatnot. So that was a real struggle that day to Peaceful Bay. But yeah, otherwise another great unique experience. I don't know any other walks where you have a canoe crossing, but yeah, and I was very lucky. I met some nice people who brought some canoes back for me to help me get across. So that was good too. But then yeah, then all of a sudden it ends. So yeah, it was probably I really slowed down the last 2 days, and a bit of that was because there was a couple of prescribed burns that were going on. So they changed the campsites and whatnots, but and I decided to skip a bit of the road walking there, but yeah, it allowed me to slow down and just sort of yeah, just think about what had happened and getting back to normal life and starting to think about that. But yeah, by and large, the walk on the track was absolutely amazing. So in terms of body problems along the way, I got blisters on the second day. Then I started taping my feet every day and had no issues. My shoes held up. The only issue I had was probably about halfway through the walk, I started getting really sore big toe joint pain, and ended up just being inflammation. But yeah, it just made it. I don't know what it is. It had a bit of a as soon as I tick over the 23 k's for the day, it goes bang. It's time to get sore. So, but I managed that with various methods that I've learned along the way. I was probably lucky that a lot of the huts towards the north, there's at least some form of water that you can put your feet in and stuff like that if you didn't have access to ice. But yeah, yeah, pretty good to be honest. Definitely a walk I'd recommend people up there.
Yeah, fantastic. And sounds like you got a bit of everything. Did you get photos of the canoe crossing there?
Yeah. The a lovely couple. They were called Wombat and Donkey. It was their track names. They actually gave me my track name, Jack Black. So
Jack Black.
yeah, because
Nice.
I like the music and things like that, and I was probably one of the few people who was blaring. I didn't bother wearing headphones when I'd walk into campsites, I just have my music blaring sometimes, especially at the end of the day. Because I go, who's going to hear me? No one's going to hear me. But yeah, they very kindly. They could see I was really struggling that canoe crossing day. There was another young family behind me as well on that day, so they made sure there was enough canoes on the side, and they waited. They've done it a few times, but they came across with me and took some nice photos while I was paddling. So it's pretty good because it'd be hard to take photos of yourself, but yeah, it's really really kind of them. So
Yeah, amazing. Awesome. And you've touched on a few, I guess, of the challenges that you faced along the way. Like over the time that you're on the trail, was there anything that kind of, I guess, that you ran into or you had an issue with, or was just like a good experience that you hadn't really considered before you set off?
yeah, I've always, because I've done a lot of independent travel in I'll say more unusual travel destinations. I was a little bit surprised how bored I got some days, especially towards the north, and that there was a bit of internal struggle about there's a I could just go to Perth now and just finish it now. I've seen everything I wanted to see versus certainly my wife would tell me I'm a very stubborn person. So there was a bit of, nah, I got to tick this off. So I got into that frame of mind, which is probably not the most positive frame of mind, but it was actually it was probably when I started actually seeing less people too that I noticed that happened. Like there was a few stretches where I think it was 6 or 7 days, you see 3 people and things like that. And it'd only be a brief conversation during the day. They're going the other way. They just wanted to know what the burger was like at the last track town I'd been to. And, it was nice to catch up with people like that. But, yeah, I was a little bit surprised that I really had to think about mindset techniques. So I'm glad that I did read up about that beforehand, because probably in the past I would say, no, I won't have an issue with that. It'll be physical, not mental for me. But yeah, I was surprised at that. Probably and related to that was I'm not a massive fan of road walking. I've realised now, like the 4-wheel drive tracks. I just like there was one road, what was it called? Dog Pool Road, I think it was. 12 Ks of just walking on a road, and I just think, yeah, look, this is just. There was a lot of not good words coming out of my mouth walking out of that. And so, but yeah, I got some music and whatnot, so that was okay. I was a bit worried about the toe for a while. Like I had to have an extra unexpected rest day. I was lucky. I was actually at probably although not lucky for my wallet, I was near the nicest hotel on the walk. It wasn't a town as such, Carrier Resort it's called. But yeah, if anyone ever gets in trouble around there, it's a beautiful place to spend a couple of days. But I stayed there longer than I was expecting, just basically to ice the toe and whatnot. And I was a little bit worried about that because I was heading into it was called the Donley River roller coaster. It's a bit of known as the not that WA's got big hills as such, but you feel it. It wasn't the ups; it was the downs that were really annoying for me with the little toe. But no, I managed that. Yeah, apart from that, it's probably not really an obstacle as such, but doing a thru-hike like this has probably made me realize that I'm a little bit more of a I think I want to go on hikes that are a bit more, I guess, like the overland, where every single day you see something magical from a scenery perspective. So maybe there's probably, I'm sure there's longer walks in the overland that have that, but I just need to find that balance there. Maybe I'm not though admittedly I am looking at the Haitian Way, which I think has got a lot of boring walking, but I do like the idea of the Flinders Ranges, so maybe that's my wow moment there. So yeah, they're probably the things that they won't be big obstacles, but yeah, or just things to be mindful of.
And then once you got to the end, because obviously it's a massive adventure, extended and long and a lot of time on the trail. Once you got to the end, last day, like how did you feel? Like what was going through your head and did you do anything to celebrate afterwards?
Yeah, so I actually took they're not very nice actually. If you go northbound, the last day is rocky, hilly, uphill for most of it, which I was a bit surprised about. But yeah, in terms of, I did a little bit of a video to myself walking up the hill, which I had watched back because I didn't remember what I'd said, but it was along the lines of absolutely, I was really stoked to see wife and my three young boys. Um, or I hope they were going to be there. They were supposed to be at the finish line, which they were, which is, well, actually, they came down a little bit to walk a little bit with me, but so that was, yep, stoked to see them after how many days? I think it was 46 days it was for me. I was quite proud of the achievement at the time. Like, I gave myself a 50-50 chance of finishing it. I was probably more thinking I would just say, stuff it. I'll go do the Cape to Cape while I'm here or something, which is a bit more wow. But no, I was sort of proud. I I did, and I said this in the video to myself. There was a small part of me that was thinking, there's a coal service station across the road from the finish line. Maybe I could go restock and do what do they call it, a yo-yo, and just walk back the other way. There was definitely a small part of me that didn't want to finish. But I think, yeah, I was probably hobbling by the end, so I was probably due to yeah, I was actually really keen to get to a doctor and see if there's any big problem with my toe, and I was just being stubborn. But yeah, yeah. So a range of emotions, I'd say. In terms of celebrating, we had a quick feed in Kalamunda, nice little town. A lot of people go to the pub, but we had a week's sort of family holiday around Perth, go to the Clockers and the Rock Nest and all that. And so I had a week to sort of celebrate, chill out, reconnect with the family, and of course a few beverages and stuff like that. But yeah, I purposely I didn't want to go back to Melbourne straight away because I must admit when I got to even Kalamunda, which is for people who know, it's not that big a like outer suburb of Perth, but I was like, what all these cars and stuff? I was a bit weird. So yeah, it was just a bit weird to have all the facilities you want and yeah, just the food variety and things like that. So yeah, the range of emotions.
Yeah, I imagine it's a bit of an adjustment period stepping off that and getting back into the big wide world. But even having that kind of week transition hopefully eased you in a little bit. So definitely a good call there. So now with that out of the way, and you're like, cool, accomplished this huge goal. Obviously a lot of lead up to it. What's the plan for the hiking moving forward? Is anything else kind of on the agenda? Anything else that you're sort of eyeing off at this stage?
Yeah, I've certainly got a bit of a wish list. Don't know when, but certainly one that's probably gone a little bit higher on my, and had been on my wish list, but I probably had thought that because of the road walking or whatnot, that I wouldn't be that keen. But the more I talked to people actually on the Bibbulmun, was a Hyacinth Trail. So it's South Australia. It's a little bit longer. But it goes Flinders Ranges down towards Adelaide. So the only problem with that will be I need more time off, so that'll be a bit of a challenge. But maybe the next ones will be overseas. I've got a couple. I've never been to the Dolomites. I've been to Iceland and Norway, but I've never hiked there. A lot of people that I've met both on Bibbulmun and just in hiking in Victoria have really recommended that. And then a couple of um, ones that had been on the list for a long time, given some travel I've done around there. But I've got the Fan Mountains in Tajikistan and the Hunza Valley in Pakistan that I'd love to get to. Hunza Valley, not so much for a long hike, but there's good hiking around there. I'm not planning on doing K2 or anything like that. I'm not. It's probably more for the scenery than anything else. But yeah, a bit of a mixed bag for wish list, but it's probably more what I do first, be more around how much time I can get leave passes from work and also from home. So we'll see. Hopefully my boys, as they get a bit older, will show more and more interest in doing stuff like this, and then they can tag along.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, well, definitely a few good options there. And I guess for anyone who is listening to this podcast today, who may be considering this particular adventure, or who maybe is considering, a big long through hike, some other place in Australia, all around the world, what advice would you give them if they were eyeing something like this off?
I think one of the biggest mistakes I did was so I was really for me at least really meticulous with working how much calories I was going to eat each day. And some people like restocking in the track towns, but I tended to send the box ahead. Um, I was fine with the breakfast, lunch, and dinners, but the snacks, I basically did the same snack every day. And by the second, third week, I just was over my snacks. I was giving them to other hikers, putting them in hikers' boxes, and just stocking up on other stuff. And like honestly, if I see another Cliff Bar, I'll throw up. But yeah, I was so focused on making sure I had enough calories that just make sure you get enough variety and be realistic. Of you're not a robot, you can't just do the same thing every day. Um, Try and allow some sort of slack in your itinerary. I know it can be hard for people, especially if they're coming from, if you're doing a through hike that's interstate or overseas, you're a little bit restricted sometimes in timing. But there's certainly the Bibbulmun Track's known for their prescribed burning and closure of certain sections and whatnot. Like I got pretty lucky, to be honest. There was a section that was closed after we finished walking through it, but there was other sections that were closed that we unfortunately couldn't visit. But just if you've got a bit of extra time, allow a bit of slack so that if you don't feel well one day, you don't feel bad by sticking around somewhere, or you can slow down even. Yeah, they're probably the main two. And certainly don't underestimate how much the training beforehand can actually make it more enjoyable for you. You just feel a bit more mentally confident, and you've done the work. So touch wood, make sure you don't injure yourself on the track. You should be all right, especially for the Bibbulmun, because not saying it's easy by any stretch, and certainly, I felt like I was pushing myself a lot, but slowly, you'd be okay. So, because the huts, with the water and toilets and all that, it's fantastic. So, you don't have to worry, stress about that sort of stuff like some of the other big walks in Australia. But yeah, definitely do it. Definitely encourage people to do it.
Yeah, awesome. And I feel like we've covered, quite a bit of ground today, and it's been awesome really hearing a little bit about, your story in the lead up and particularly on the trail, because I hadn't heard the story yet until we got on today. So I guess before we wrap things up today, was there anything else that you'd like to add that we haven't really had a chance to touch on today or haven't been able to cover at all?
No, just thank you for putting my program together. It was really good, easy to follow. I'm really happy with it. So yeah, I think it's definitely a worthwhile area to have because it is so unique. I think hiking, fitness, and stuff. So, and certainly those supporting videos as well. Like I know I didn't talk a lot about them, but yeah, I got a lot about out of those videos, even nutrition and mindset, hiking poles, all sorts of different things. It makes me probably realize how little I do know about a lot of things in this space, even though I've been doing it for a long time. But yeah, and yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, from my side of things, it was such a pleasure having you on board the process and the program. And I'm so happy that kind of it paid off for you on the trail and you had such an awesome adventure. And I just want to say as well, thank you so much for coming on today because as I said, when I was kind of pitching this podcast to you, like, I know so many people who listen to this are eyeing off, adventures like this or this particular trail. And just to hear this story and hear a little bit about your insights in the trail, I think it's going to be so awesome for a lot of people. So I really do appreciate you coming on. I think this has been absolutely fantastic.
No worries. My pleasure.
So there you go, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I really do hope it's been inspirational for anyone who may potentially be eyeing off a long distance hike like this in their future. Now, if you did have a big through hike or a big hiking adventure in your future, and you were feeling like getting a bit of help and support and training and education to help build you up and get you in a good spot and help you feel confident through all the different situations that you're faced with on the trail, I would love to chat with you. If you want to find out a little bit more about the online personal training that Mark used to prepare for this adventure, you can go to summitstrength.com.au/online. On that page, there's a big video that talks a lot about our training. And if it sounds like something you want to learn a little bit more about, there's a link on that page. You can book a free call with our team and we can have a little bit of a chat, learn about you, your hiking, your training, and see if we might be able to help you out. So if you want to learn more, go to summitstrength.com.au/online and we can take it from there.